So that 49ers debacle in Los Angeles against the Rams was so bad yesterday that I had to go to New York overnight to do the grades on the other side of the country. In all seriousness, I understand that this is fairly random, but I've got an event in New York before I get back to 49ers practice this week in the Bay Area, so we might as well check out Vessel and Hudson Yards as we go through these 49ers grades. Spoiler alert, Brock Purdy and Jauan Jennings both earned A's. A+ for Jauan Jennings. If you head over to the San Francisco Standard right now where the grades are posted. A D for the rest of the 49ers receivers, and that gets me to the rapport between Brock Purdy and Brandon Aiyuk, which was absolutely pristine last season. I can't say the same about the early season this time around. To me, it seemed that the 49ers tried to force feed Brandon Aiyuk early in this game against the Rams. So, I mean, the very first snap, play went to Brandon Aiyuk. The first touchdown that went to Jauan Jennings, they wanted to throw to Brandon Aiyuk. And Purdy did a great job scanning back to his right to find Jennings. And, you know, from that point on, I thought that delivery gave Jennings some real confidence in this game. And then he just went on a tear. Then he turned into a hybrid of prime Jerry Rice and prime Terrell Owens. 12 targets, 11 catches, 175 yards for Jauan Jennings moving forward, and Brandon Aiyuk seemed like an afterthought in the game plan from that point on. But there was a play, and a lot of people are talking about it. I believe Brian Baldinger talked about it today, where late in the game, 49ers had a chance to really seal it, and it looked like Aiyuk was open down the seam, and it looked like Brock Purdy was looking at him, but he didn't throw the football to him. And I do have to wonder how much rapport has been frayed by the fact that Brandon Aiyuk wasn't at training camp, because it did seem that wasn't the only play where Purdy and Aiyuk weren't on the same page. There were a couple outbreakers in the game yesterday where there was either miscommunication or poor timing where Brock Purdy did not connect with Brandon Aiyuk. So much of any NFL offense, but especially this one for the 49ers, is based on trust. And you're only going to look a certain way, and you're only going to go a certain way if you have full trust that a receiver is going to do what you expect him to. And I feel that in the case of Brock Purdy and Brandon Aiyuk, they're still working on reestablishing trust. You know, I have a lot of trust in some of the street meat in New York. Maybe I shouldn't, but it smells really good, and I'm tempted to have some now, although we're a little too close to dinner for that. Anyway, you can eat really well at some of those shops. Swing back around, you can see Vessel behind me. So what do we got? We got A+ for Jennings, a D for the rest of the receivers. Ronnie Bell was obviously terrible in this game for the 49ers. I mean, Purdy, most of his incompletions yesterday were drops. There were a couple of miscommunications with Brandon Aiyuk, but Purdy was still over 70%, and he probably would have been damn near 90% had it not been for the Ronnie Bell drops in this game, and the 49ers would have won the game. Unfortunately, that's a byproduct of all the injuries that the 49ers have suffered. If you have Deebo Samuel available, if you have George Kittle available, if you have Christian McCaffrey available, the football doesn't have to go to Ronnie Bell at a critical point of the game. But unfortunately for the 49ers, that's how things shook out. So he drops that receiver cumulative grade significantly. You know who was good, though? Tight end position, Eric Saubert. Eric Saubert now has 4 catches on the season. That's more catches than Charlie Werner, the tight end 2 for the 49ers, had all of last year. So when Kittle does come back, I do wonder if the 49ers can start to run some more diverse plays in 2 tight end sets, because somebody like Eric Saubert definitely brings a receiving threat that the 49ers didn't have with Charlie Werner. They've been looking for a tight end too for a long time, and Eric Saubert might have emerged into that type of threat yesterday. You know who's playing a lot of tight end was Kyle Juszczyk. The 49ers snap divisions yesterday. Juszczyk was at fullback on 17 snaps, but he was a tight end on 18 snaps, and he was out wide on 2 snaps. He was at slot receiver for 7 snaps, 44 total snaps for Kyle Juszczyk, which matches his number. I mean, he's such a versatile piece, especially while the 49ers are missing a lot of weapons right now. I think Kyle Juszczyk is so important to this offense. Slot receiver at Harvard, not too far here from New York, and he's putting in that work all across the formation for the 49ers. So at running back, I gave the 49ers I gave him a B because, I mean, Jordan Mason's a workhorse. I know that the Rams were focused a lot to stop the 49ers run game, and I know that the 49ers offensive line has been struggling, especially in short yardage situations. That one of the chances they had to put the game away, Jake Brendel just got pushed back. It looked like the interior really wasn't doing its job. And I know in pass protection, Colton McKivitz has given up more pressures than all but one tackle in the entire National Football League. So the running backs, I don't think they're being dealt a fair hand at this point. I think Mason's having to run against a lot of stacked boxes and a lot of contact, but he leads the NFL in carries. He's been a workhorse throughout that. They gave Isaac Guerendo his first extended opportunity yesterday. He played 10 snaps for the 49ers, even lined up out wide on one of the snaps. And I talked to him in the locker room. He said that he's getting a whole lot more comfortable. So I gave the running backs a B for the game, with Kyle Juszczyk kind of hybridizing himself between the running back, fullback position and the tight end position. So he helps raise the grade of both rooms. So speaking of the lines for the 49ers offensive line, boy, it's got to be down to the C- at best, maybe a D for the 49ers offensive line. Trent Williams is not in shape yet, which is a big issue for San Francisco. So you've got to get Williams to not cramp during a game. I mean, his tongue was cramping during week 1. That obviously wasn't good for the 49ers. Had to go in and get an IV. Yesterday, the calf was cramping for Trent Williams. He hasn't been pass blocking as well as he normally does. He's normally a top 5 pass blocker. He's just right at the 50th percentile. I'm sure that's going to get better over time. But with Colton McKivitz on the other side, giving up 13 pressures already and 5 yesterday, you basically need an airtight left side, knowing that Colton McKivitz is going to be giving up what he gives up on the right side. Otherwise, you got to give a lot of tight end help to one of the tackle positions. Remarkably, the 2 guards, Aaron Banks and Dominic Pooney, have been the 49ers' best pass protectors so far. They're right around the 50th percentile in terms of pressures given up, while Jake Brendel has really struggled in both the run game and the pass game on the middle. So somewhere around a C- for the 49ers O-line. D-line, they're taking some heat on social media right now, which I think some of it is a little undeserved. There's one clip of Javon Hargrave making the rounds and saying, oh, he's loafing. We're going to find out in a little bit from Kyle Shanahan to see if Hargrave's triceps was seriously hurt. We know that it was at least a little bit hurt on the play in question. So before we find out whether or not he was seriously injured, I think we should reserve judgment. Hargrave actually led the 49ers in pressures with 5. And I watched the whole tape of this game twice on the plane over here to New York, and there were a lot of high motor plays from Javon Hargrave, including a sack. I don't think that he was bad in this game at all, and I don't think it's fair to replay one play over and over. I think that's one of the pitfalls of social media, and use it to judge Javon Hargrave's whole game. So Malik Collins also had 5 pressures. I thought Nick Bosa was okay. When I watched the tape yesterday, this was the secondary not covering. 80% of Matthew Stafford's passing yards went against either Isaac Yiadom, Charvarius Ward, or the linebacker Devondre Campbell, who they picked on a lot. 3 times for 53 yards, plus the triple penalty at the end of the game. So the Rams found big-time weaknesses in the 49ers secondary. I don't think that San Francisco's schematically up to par right now. I think Sean McVay really outcoached Nick Sorensen in the adjustment game down the stretch. And these holes that Stafford found in the secondary with Tutu Atwell, with Whittington, the rookie wide receiver, they were able to exploit the 49ers before the pass rush could turn pressures into sacks consistently against Matthew Stafford. So I don't think it was much of a pressure deficiency for the 49ers as it was a coverage deficiency in this football game, especially against guys like Devondre Campbell. That second linebacker position is a big-time question mark, big-time concern for the 49ers. They even tried to put D. Winters into that spot, but he got hurt. He hurt his ankle, and then at that point, the 49ers had to go back to Devondre Campbell. So Anyway, I give the linebackers for the 49ers a C, C- in this game, because Fred Warner's good, but beyond that, you can't trust really anybody at that linebacker position. And I give the defensive line probably a solid C. I don't think the pass rushing was terrible, but I do think that both them and the linebackers have to be better against the run. The Rams had 98 rushing yards in this game. Kyren Williams got what he wanted in the red zone, and there were no big gashing runs in the middle of the field, but whenever the 49ers just needed a stop in the run game, they couldn't get it. When the Rams needed a stop in the run game, they got it late in the game as they were trying to hold the 49ers to a field goal. So ultimately, you could simplify this to who won in the trenches, and I think that the Rams, embarrassingly for the 49ers, were able to win in the trenches. Some cool architecture in New York. I do think that San Francisco is a much prettier city, but you've got taller buildings here in New York as we look up at Hudson Yards. You can actually, you know, I walked by it. I don't think I'm going to cross the street again, but that subway station that I crossed by earlier, that's the 7 train. You could take it out to Shea Stadium, where the New York Jets once played. I know the Mets play at Shea Stadium. It's the new one, but the old Shea Stadium, which was right where the new one is, used to be the home of, I believe, Joe Namath and the New York Jets, who the 49ers played in week 1. Anyway, it's starting to rain, so I've got to finish these grades. Secondary for the 49ers, we got to give them a D at best, right? I mean, and it's to me, it's a schematic issue. To me, they've got to catch up in the chess game against opposing offensive coordinators. They lost to Kevin O'Connell and company. 7 of 12 third downs converted against the 49ers. That was in the game against the Vikings. And yesterday, just too many gashing big gains down the stretch for a Rams team that wasn't good. Pass protection that still ranks the worst in the league. I think the fault is firmly with the 49ers coverage units in that situation. So bad grades for the defense all across the board. The good grades for the offense go with Brock Purdy playing elite football and Juwan Jennings, who obviously delivered an elite game for the 49ers. We'll give Jennings an A+. Finally, special teams. It's a big, fat F for the 49ers. Not good at all. And if this team is going to go anywhere, special teams is going to have to be a whole lot better. They have to cover fake punts when they know they're coming. They have to actually, execute punt coverage, and they can't let punts get blocked. The last 2 weeks have been a circus on special teams for the 49ers, and it's inexcusable. I think Kyle Shanahan thinks the same thing, and San Francisco is going to try to make a fix moving forward. They better make a fix moving forward, because I'll tell you what, my final thought here on this walk in New York, Brock Purdy and Juwan Jennings deserve a whole lot better than the supporting effort that they got yesterday, especially from the defense and the special teams. Those are the grades. You guys can add up the GPA yourselves. I don't think it's very high.